So guys, when we talk about free agency, it's a lot of, oh, this person's going to this team until new reporting comes out and we find out actually that's probably not going to happen. So let's talk about Jewell Loyd real quick. So Jewell Loyd requested to get traded somewhere else in December. She accused Seattle Storm coaches of some stuff. There was an investigation. Turns out the league didn't find any, or the Seattle Storm didn't find anything in that investigation. After that investigation was closed, Jewell Lloyd was like, you know what? I want out of here. Let me go somewhere else. And right after that, there was a lot of conversation about, oh, Jewell Lloyd to the Chicago Sky. It does kind of make sense, right? Jewell Lloyd is from Lincolnwood, which is a suburb of Chicago. And I could see the idea of Jewell Lloyd coming to Chicago, but Seattle, they have Jewell Lloyd under contract for another year, and they don't want to give her up for nothing. So I'm sure in the conversations that have been had so far between Seattle and Chicago, Seattle wants quite a bit of return for Jewell Lloyd, and of course, makes sense. And as of right now, it seems like the Chicago Sky are not willing to give them everything that they want for Jewell Lloyd. And personally, I am cool with that. I actually kind of like that. Here is what Annie Constable said in her reporting today. It says Storm guard Juwel Lloyd requested a trade out of Seattle, where she spent her entire WNBA career in December. The idea of a homecoming for the Lincolnwood product seemed enticing to many, but in the month since that trade request was made, talks between the Storm and Sky have cooled substantially, according to multiple league sources. The expectation is that Lloyd will not land in Chicago. Now, then she goes on to talk about the number 3 pick that the Chicago Sky have. As a reminder, they have the number 3 pick and the number 10 pick in the WNBA draft. And to be honest with you guys, I was of the mind of, yes, I like Jewell Lloyd. I think Jewell Lloyd is a fantastic talent in the WNBA. However, the idea of the Chicago Sky just sort of giving everything away for her, to me, didn't make any sense. Now, supposedly, they were interested in possibly trading some of their draft assets for a player like a Jewell Lloyd, but seems likely that's not going to happen. Further in the article, we see Annie talk a little bit about the Aces and that possibly being a destination for Jewell Lloyd. It says, when considering potential destinations, the Aces offer one of the most logical landing spots for Lloyd because they are expected to need a replacement for Kelsey Plum. Vegas is also where Lloyd wants to be, according to multiple league sources. Those league sources, man, they be telling Annie everything, man. They be telling her everything. The Aces scored Plum on January the 11th, meaning her only path elsewhere is through a sign and trade. While a clean Lloyd for Plum trade might not be the answer between the Storm and the Aces, a trade involving multiple teams could lead both players ending up where they want to be. And a reminder, Kelsey Plum is very familiar with the Seattle area. She went to school at Washington, recently had her jersey retired there. She loves the Seattle area, and so like that also could make a lot of sense as well for her to go to Seattle. There seems to be a lot of talk around, even though we see Kelsey Plum get cored by the Aces, it seems that a lot of people are saying that no, she's not going to end up with the Aces when the season starts. She's going to be traded somewhere else. There was talk about the Valkyrie, her going there. Now there's talk about her possibly going to Seattle. I don't know. I think Seattle could work, but I'm curious to see what Seattle would also give Vegas, because I feel like a 1-to-1 swap of Jewell Lloyd and Kelsey Plum, I don't think that's likely to happen. I think we'd have to see Seattle probably give something else. Maybe that's a 3rd-round draft pick or 2nd-round draft pick or something else in return for gaining Kelsey Plum. Now, let's continue to talk about the Chicago Sky real quick, because as y'all know, I'm a Sky fan. And there's been talks all around the board of the Chicago Sky possibly shopping their draft picks for some players. And personally, I don't like that. I really don't. The Chicago Sky have the number 3 pick and the number 10 pick in the WNBA draft. And to me, it makes the most logical sense to not trade those and to use those assets to kind of build for the future and kind of model yourself after what the Vegas Aces had to go through, where they were able to build their team through the draft. And then, a couple years later, 2 back-to-back championships, right? That is possible for the Chicago Sky. Of course, Vegas had 3 number 1 picks. The Chicago Sky still has yet to have a single number 1 pick in the WNBA so far. But I do think there's potential to do that, especially with that number 3 pick that it seems like they are shopping around. In this article, Annie also talks about the idea of some possibilities of the Sky, getting a package that includes maybe the Dream's Alicia Gray, Ariel Atkins, Benigni Hamilton, Ray Burrell. For that number 3 pick doesn't totally make any sense, but we'll kind of move on from there. I do think the reporting around Courtney Vandersloot possibly going to the Chicago Sky again makes a lot of sense to me. She did start her career for the Chicago Sky. She helped win us a championship. She ended up leaving to go to the New York Liberty, won a championship with them, and now she's in a way on the downside of her career, and she has to figure out what's next for her. And possible places to go is Chicago. And so I'm curious to see ultimately what happens on that front. But the idea of Jewell Loyd to Chicago, it seems like that chapter is officially closed now, which I am totally okay with. In the free agency market, if Jewell Loyd wants to come to Chicago, perfect. She will be a free agent come 2026. But for 2025, no, because we would have to give up too much. Now, please, Jeff Pagliacca, people that be related to the Chicago Sky, anybody with influence, please do not trade that number 3 draft pick. There's talks about them shopping it around. I hope they don't, because that draft pick could lead us to having Olivia Miles on our team. I think that's a huge likelihood if my assumption of Flau'jae Johnson entering the WNBA draft is correct. If she is in the draft, her and Paige are going 1 and 2. Olivia Miles is going to be going 3 for the Chicago Sky if Flau'jae actually enters. If she doesn't, maybe Olivia, lands at that number 2 spot. Maybe she doesn't. I do think that the Chicago Sky have a good chance of getting Olivia Miles, and so I don't think it makes any sense to trade that away for a 1-year loaner for a player. But, the Sky will do whatever they want to do. They are in talks with Courtney Vandersloot. They also have had talks with Dejanay Carrington as well, who is a restricted free agent. And so, yeah. I'm interested to see ultimately who the Sky end up picking up. They have a lot of cap space. And that means they have the money. They have the moolah to spend. So we'll see ultimately what they are able to do. I'll have reports about what other teams are doing in the videos to come. Thank y'all so much for rocking with me. And I will see y'all in the next one. Till next time. Bye-bye.